Clay from Brooklyn, football with the fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Here with another one of my thought experiments. I'm going to continue through the season. What I've been doing is taking a look at what I think the 2025 Giants might have done against the 2024 Giants schedule. Again, first of all, I'm making some assumptions as to what the 2025 Giants roster will be. But I do think it's going to be much improved from 2024, at the very least at quarterback and edge rusher, but I think in several places as well. So I'm just doing a thought experiment. How do I think the Giants would have done against last year's schedule with this year's team? I've already looked at week 1 against Minnesota, week 2 against Washington. We won week 3 against Cleveland, so I didn't look at that one. Week 4 against Dallas. We won week 5 against Seattle, and now we're up to week 6 against Cincinnati. Now, I think that we had a very realistic chance at winning all 5 of those games. We did win 2 of them anyway, and the other 3 games were close enough. Well, actually, the mini game wasn't close at all, but I think our team was so much better that we could have hung with mini. Now, do I think we'd have been 5-0? Probably not. Right? It's just as likely that we didn't win 1 or 2 of those games as that we did, but we had a better chance than we had with last year's team, or would have had a better chance with this year's team than we would have last year's team. So I'm thinking we might have been 3-2 after these 5 games, maybe 4-1. I'm not saying we've been 5-0, but I'm thinking 3-2, maybe 4-1 was a realistic possibility with this roster against that year's schedule. Remember, Minnesota had a great year last year, but nobody saw that coming. Washington had a great year last year, but nobody saw that coming. So for us to have beaten Minnesota and Washington in those first 2 weeks actually wouldn't have been considered upsets. Certainly not this week 2 against Washington. We used to have Washington's number. That said, let's take a look at what I think the Giants with the 2025 roster might have done against the 2024. But before I go any further, do me a favor, guys. Grab that like and subscribe button. It really means a lot to us. We're really working hard here at Football with the Fellas, all about Big Blue, to try to bring stuff to you, especially during this down month when there's not a whole lot going on. We want to keep you engaged and to keep you thinking about the Giants. So do us a favor and help us get those numbers up as far as subscribers and like, share, comment, all those good things. Okay, so yes, the 2025 Giants against the 2024 schedule. We're looking at week 6 against Cincinnati. And the first play of the game, we had 3 interior defensive linemen, which you know I love. Most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, we only have 2 interior defensive linemen, but we had 3 on this play. And not to say that every time we use 3, it's going to work out well, but it sure did here. And you see that we immediately put pressure on him. Burrow has to get rid of the ball. It's a different feel for the offensive line. It's the same play from the rear view from behind the quarterback. It's just very different when there's 3 defensive linemen. So your offensive linemen get occupied faster. They can't just put a double team on Dexter and a double team on whoever the other defensive tackle is. It used to be Raheem Roches a lot last year. I don't think he'll be there this year. But the fact is, they've got to make decisions faster. They've got to get the ball out faster. If they're going to run, they're going to have to run faster. It's just not very easy to do against 3 interior defensive linemen, either to run or pass against us. And I really hope we use that a lot more this year. There was a good story in Giants Big Blue View this week, today actually, talking about what is known as the Eagle Front. Now we have to come up with another name for it than that. But the Eagle Front, which is a slight variation on the tight front, still 2-3 interior defensive linemen, but they're a little wider in the Eagle Front than they are in the tight front. Shout out to Nick Filato for explaining that. We really love when Nick takes us to summer school and breaks down film for us and lets us know some of the terminology so that we can speak intelligently about the game, not just be passionate fans. Okay, here's Joe Burrow's 47-yard touchdown run. Joe Burrow probably hasn't run 47 yards since middle school for any reason, right? That's longer than the 40-yard dash that he wasn't very fast at. So let's take a look at how that happened. And I want you to focus on Tyler Nubin. Secondarily, look at Jason Pinnock, who became the single-eye safety because Nubin comes crashing down. But what is Nubin doing? I don't understand what his plan was. Like, what did he think he was doing? So here, when the ball is snapped, you see where he is. The ball's on the 47. He's on the 33. And then for reasons I'll never understand, he just comes sprinting down towards the line of scrimmage. Not towards any particular Bengal, right? He just comes sprinting down towards the line of scrimmage, which makes Jason Pinnock slide to the middle in single high coverage. And they've got trips left, 3 verts left. So he's, of course, occupied by that. But I'm not sure what in the world Tyler Nubin is doing. Like, he runs All he doesn't even stop at this receiver. He runs all the way up practically to the line of scrimmage to do what exactly? Now, not only does he do that, but he's doing that without having any eyes in the backfield. Because here's Joe Burrow stepping up to avoid the pressure that we put on him. And right now, Joe Burrow is over here getting ready to run for a 47-yard touchdown. And Tyler Nubin is still sprinting down here to do what? To cover this guy? Like, I can't figure out what was his plan. What did he think he was doing? And now you see he stops and turns and says, oh, uh-oh, my man's running and he's got the ball. There's nobody over here for me to cover it all. And I could have been back here helping, but no, I'm standing here at the 44-yard line, at the 47-yard line doing nothing. And Pinnock still has not seen that. Okay, see this line judge? That's the line of scrimmage. Joe Burrow is past the line of scrimmage now, can no longer throw the ball by rule. So this is now a running play. Time for you to come up and make the tackle. But that would require you having your eyes in the backfield. And instead, now, again, in fairness, right, there's three verts here, three vertical receivers going deep, and you're the single high safety. So I guess you had to look there first. But do you never look in the backfield? Never? And you see Joe Burrow running with, I mean, I don't know, he could have built a couple of houses in that space. And Isaiah Simmons is trying to track him down. Jason Pinnock finally tried to track him down, and there he goes in for a touchdown. Here's that same play from a second angle. And again, keep an eye on what Nubin is doing, which is mind-boggling. So here he comes, sprinting up the field to do nothing. And you're already out the back door. Azeez Ojulari misses the swipe at his ankles. Here's Isaiah Simmons trying to track him down. You'll see that there's no Jason Pinnock yet, and then he'll finally come flashing in at the very end. But too little, too late. Touchdown. What was that? And I blame that on Nubin, and a little bit Pinnock. Pinnock should have seen him running a little bit sooner, but whatever. So, do I think the 2025 Giants will have a little bit better deep safety help with Javon Holland instead of Jason Pinnock? Yeah, I do. I really do. And I think he's going to also help Tyler Nubin do a better job. Okay, we're also going to have a better quarterback. Throw the ball, Daniel. Throw the ball, Daniel. Let's watch this play. First of all, he's rolling to the right. I don't quite understand why he's rolling to the right because there's nobody pressuring him, but he rolls to the right and doesn't throw the ball. And there's two people wide open. And then he throws it away. I, help me understand this. So again, maybe you and Jalen Hyatt had a beef of some sort, but here's Jalen Hyatt wide open. I've talked about this play before on other episodes, but if you haven't seen them, wide open. It almost looks like he's covering Jermaine Pratt, the inside linebacker. You're rolling to the right. This man is already open, right? That's 9 yards of cushion. You know the play. You call the play. You know the pattern. You know he's about to break out. If you throw this ball right now, here, that man is not coming up here and stopping that pass, right? If you throw the out, when would you throw the out? And if you don't want to throw the out, then stop, plant your feet, and throw the ball back here to this man who's wide open. I'm not sure what you're doing. Who are you covering? There's literally no one else on this side of the field but him. Why not cover him? Why do you think it's more important to cover this grass? But you know what? That's the Bengals' problem. That's not my problem. So this is a just throw the ball, Daniel, terrible decision. It is 3rd and 10. You see the first down marker? It's 3rd and 10. Why would you run a 5-yard out on 3rd and 10? Why would you throw a 5-yard out on 3rd and 10 with no pressure? There is literally no pressure, right? There's no one in his face. Daniel Jones has a very clean pocket. You're not even going to let the receivers get to the sticks? Like he's already in his throwing motion. And what is he throwing? He's throwing what we used to call a button hook. 5 yards downfield on 3rd and 10 with 2 defenders there. I mean, I can see if these 2 guys weren't here, if he was wide open, sure. But that's not what's happening. And it's not like you have a cannon and can get it there when he has enough time for some yak. As soon as he catches the ball, he's getting ready to get hit. And now we're punting anyway. So if we're going to punt anyway, 5 more yards isn't going to make a big difference in the punt. Would you at least let the receivers get to the sticks? Like this guy might have been open. This guy might have been open. I mean, there might have been a way to get the ball to someone past the sticks. But you don't even wait for them to get past the sticks, and you've already thrown the ball. So will this year's quarterback do a better job of that? Yes, I think he will. I think our play calling will be better because this year's quarterback is better. So we might be more willing to throw further downfield beyond the chains instead of trying to get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible. You've heard me say many times that Micah McFadden is, in my opinion, overrated. Solid, solidly average, but misses too many tackles. And here's another one. Here he is. Now, I mean, like, just watch the play. Now, he has help, and other people come up and make the tackle, but he doesn't. He completely whiffs on that tackle. And that's just another example of Micah McFadden not making a play, missing a tackle, and relying on somebody else to do it. This play you might remember, I think Azeez Ojulari actually thinks that this ball has been fumbled because right there, he looks down, and I think he sees that the kicking up to the dirt or the pellets and thinks it's a strip sack, but it's not. And he lets go, and then Joe Burrow gets to throw the ball away. But like he is literally unblocked. I don't know how you didn't see him, but you didn't. And he comes in, and Joe Burrow's looking his left. First of all, can we please tell our defenders when you see that the quarterback doesn't know you're coming, tackle the football. I don't want the quarterback as much as I want the ball. He doesn't. Joe Burrow has no idea you're coming. Tackle the football. Like really, like wrap up on the ball with two hands and fall if you have to. There's no reason for your hands to be behind his back and your chest to be in his chest. Take the ball away. Jamal Adams did that to Daniel Jones a few years ago. Well, whatever. I'm not going to go that far back. But here's what I think happened again. Right here, you see these pellets kick up. I think he thought that was the ball because he stops and turns around and looks back at it. See, he stops and turns around and looks back at it, thinking, I think, oh, that's the ball. But in fact, Burrow still has the ball. And so because you let him go, he gets to throw the ball away. But is Ojulari still on the team? He is not. You know who is on the team? Same number, still number 51. I think you know who it is. And I think he will do a better job. Yes, I think Abdul Carter will do a better job. This is the interception that killed this drive that Daniel Jones threw. I just don't understand how he did not see this man coming. First of all, it's a terrible play fake. Like that fooled nobody. You were nowhere near him. You don't see this man coming until now, and then that's what you do. And here's the ball, like a dying quail, it falls right into the middle of like four Bengals. I mean, I don't get it. How could you possibly not have seen that coming? But you didn't, and because you didn't, interception. Because you were, I guess, trying to throw it out of the back of the end zone. Actually, let me go back to that for a second. There's not even a giant like in the vicinity. Like there wasn't a giant for you to be throwing it to, right? So clearly you should have seen him coming. But when you decided to throw this up in the air, like who are you throwing it to? Look where it lands. Now, I guess maybe you're trying to throw it out of the end zone, but that was terrible. Find the ball, Tay. Tay Banks. As many people have said many times, is very good in coverage. He's right there. Still made the catch. Now, T. Higgins is a very good receiver, don't get me wrong. But play the ball now and then. Like get a pass breakup once in a while. If I remember correctly, he had one pass breakup last year. One. That's one more than I had. Our special teams coach needs a talking to. Needs to be shown this film. I don't understand what the point is of having our players run off the field. What are you doing running off the field and running off the field on a fair catch? What if he fumbles the punt? There's like, what? Please tell me how you're being helpful over here. You're telling me there's zero chance that he fumbles this punt? Like that's never happened that someone has fumbled? Like you are literally walking off the field. And you are running out here to join him, and you guys are like 30 yards away. So if he were to fumble this punt, there is next to no chance that we recover it. Like you are already out of bounds, not even looking, and you're not looking, and you're jogging off the field. That is too much confidence to have in a person who doesn't have the football yet, in my opinion. So yeah, it worked out well. He caught it, but I don't get it. I just don't get the point of that. Now, again, Brian Burns is the beast. I wish we had had Christian Wilkins instead, but Brian Burns is the beast. I do not have any problem with Brian Burns. And this is how you set an edge. And watch him just come crashing down. You've heard me say this in other films, studies many times, how other players don't do that. They, especially Tay Banks, and they don't force the running back to cut up underneath into the help. But that is exactly what Banks does. What Burns does, excuse me. So watch him come flying down here. And by the way, he was lined up as an inside linebacker, right? He wasn't out wide, and sets the edge and causes that play to get shut down. Now, here is three interior defensive linemen and Dexter getting held, but it still just shows. I'm sorry. Here is proof that we need three interior defensive linemen. Dexter getting held. There is the hold, and you see that they gained 5 or 6 yards. The hold wasn't called because we only have two interior defensive linemen. If we had three interior defensive linemen, that's a much harder play for them to block, right? Because there's a double team on Dexter as usual, right? But if we had someone here, then that's not as easy to block. So now it would be harder for these two to make this block, this decision, and for him to make that decision if there was a third interior defensive lineman. In fact, that wouldn't have been how they blocked it. They would have had to block it in a different scheme. Now you see his arm on Dexter, pulling Dexter. Now, Dexter is trying his best to come back and make this tackle, but you aren't letting him because you're holding him. But you got away with it. But three interior defensive linemen would have made that much harder. Like this. Now we have three, right? There's 1, 2, 3 interior defensive linemen. And yes, you rolled out to the right, but you had to roll out to the right because you knew you couldn't do that toss sweep to the left because there was three interior defensive linemen and the three IDLs were already causing problems. Now, I'm not sure if if this is a read, if he decided I'm not going to throw that because it's already got it shut down, or if there was no doubt that this was going to be a fake and a pass. But the fact is, three IDLs made it much harder for that run option to have a chance to work. Here's Brian Burns again, shutting down a running play. Too quick for the tight end to block him. Watch him come crashing in here and make the tackle. He just flies through that hole, and by the time the running back gets the ball, he sees Brian Burns coming. So again, Brian Burns is a very good outside linebacker, and he's going to help Abdul Carter learn the position, right? Abdul Carter is a freakish athlete, but he hasn't played in the NFL yet. But with Brian Burns on the other side, and not to disrespect Kayvon's good, but Brian Burns is very good, and I expect Abdul Carter to be very good very soon, and then elite pretty soon. Okay, so here's one of the rare whiffs by Andrew Thomas. Well, not completely, but he whiffs on this block. Not whiffs is the wrong word. He gets beat on this block. But there were two receivers open already, and if Daniel Jones had gotten rid of the ball sooner, that might not have been a problem. So open, very open, and now you get sacked. But again, maybe if that ball is out sooner, you don't get sacked, right? I don't understand why you're not throwing the ball now. Like, that man is open. Bellinger is open. And frankly, so was Slayton down here. But you don't ever throw the whole shot. But if you threw this ball right now to Slayton, that's a pass that can be completed, right? Look where the safety is. That's plenty of room. But you didn't. And yes, AT did get beat. But again, throw the ball. Receivers are open. Same drive. Quarterback draw. Okay, quarterback draw. Daniel Jones is pretty mobile. I get it. But would you please let the receivers go downfield first? Remember how I said that Jason Pinnock, on Joe Burrow's touchdown run, Jason Pinnock wasn't even looking in the backfield. He's just looking at the receivers. Well, you don't even give safeties time to look at the receivers on this play. Watch how quickly he releases on this quarterback draw. He meaning Daniel Jones. Watch how quickly he turns this upfield. That really? Like, who did he think he was going to fool? Now, he got decent yardage out of it, but if he had given it another half second, maybe these receivers get a little bit further upfield, and maybe the defensive backs start looking at them. Now, you stopped immediately. I don't quite get that. Like, maybe this was supposed to be a screen pass. Maybe that was the thought. But whatever it was, you ran so quickly that the defensive backs and linebackers never took their eyes off you. So I don't get it. So the upshot is that we are going to have a much better quarterback this year, much better. and we're going to have better pass rush, and I think better run stuffing. And so a game that we lost again by one score with a terrible interception on our part, with a terrible quarterback run for 47 yards for a touchdown against us that shouldn't have happened. That was a winnable game. Would we be 6-0? Probably not. But that's 4 games that I've just gone over that are winnable, and 2 games that we actually won. Again, I'm thinking we could have won at least 4 of them with this year's Giants team. So that's what I think. But of course, I want to know what you think. So drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. Clay from Brooklyn, Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue, and I'm out.
Big shout out to El Marquis Productions, the talent behind the music and production here at Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Their beats bring energy and excitement to every episode. El Marquis' skills in mixing, mastering, and creating top quality sound make the podcast come alive each week. For your own projects, check out elmarquisproductions.com and take your sound to the next level.